Hey all, so I'm going to show you how to use a synthesizer, basic synthesizer, to create kinky soundscapes for sensory deprivation. You can use pretty simple synths for this. You can use software synths, so if you've got something like GarageBand or something like that, you can basically emulate this sort of thing on there as well. But I like using my actual piece. So what I've done here is simply set up a starting note that is just white noise. So I'll turn it up a little bit just so you can hear it. Okay, so that's alright, but the problem is I have to keep my finger on it for it to work. So I need to set up an Arpeggio and keep that latching, so it does that sort of noise. Set up this noise, there we go. So by increasing the release on a note, sustain and slightly increasing the attack, I've basically got a solid noise that I don't have to keep my finger on now. So that's just going to keep playing through. Lovely. So what you can do, you see, is you can play that noise, turn it down a little bit, play that noise into the ears of the sub, and they'll get steadily more confused and disorientated over time because they haven't got anything to latch onto. And over time they'll be unsure of how long they've been there and everything like that, and it becomes quite psychological. But what you can do is you can play with that even more. So you can be a complete git and get them to latch onto sounds that aren't really things they should be latching onto. So for example, I can introduce panning into this sound. So I have a speaker here and a speaker here. So imagine it's in headphones. So you'll hear it go backwards and forwards to back and forth from the camera. But basically, I'll turn it up. You can hear it better. Go to panning. Okay, and I can pan the sound from ear to ear. Okay, and they can latch on that rhythm of it. And maybe you start it out as so it pans backwards and forwards 1 per second. And they think, oh, I can count that. All you need to do is just slowly change it, slowly change that tempo. And before they know it, they're latching on something that no longer is at the same speed whatsoever. But they don't know that because you're doing it gradually. And then you can slowly move it back again, and they go back to static noise. Slow that down again. And the time they're on static noise, they lose track of what that previous thing was, so you can introduce a different sound or whatever. And you can just basically play around with them, because they have nothing else to go by. They can't see, they can't hear anything except what's going in their ears that you're making. So if you create patterns and change those patterns, there's nothing else for them to latch onto to realise that those patterns are changing. You do it gradually enough. You can also introduce, for example, extra sounds. So you could put in, you could slowly introduce I don't know, random little string sounds and stuff like that just come up in the mix that they're not expecting. You can make them go up and down and give them some form of notes to go on, but once again you can just change that to your heart's content and confuse them even further. So in the past I've been able to, use this sort of thing, like little simple clicking sounds as well, for example. So I could put in a little clicking, so I've got that little noise there. It's going beep, 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 beep. I can just slowly speed up that beep, 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 beep noise. So once again, there's something else that they can't really latch onto properly. And you can play around with that for ages. You can just sit here, creating little things, playing little things into their ears, use a microphone and just whisper things, all of which they're forced to hear and their brain will try and make sense of it where there is none. And yeah, I wish you good luck with that. If you don't have the facilities to make a little white noise track, then feel free to give me a shout. I will quite happily create you one. I may even put a selection of ones for you to download on my website and see what happens. But yeah, for the time being, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from my little synthesizer. Happy mindfucking.